Hey everyone, welcome back to the Got Fishing Podcast. This is season 2, episode 2. And this is a podcast that I've been wanting to do. Well, I wanted to do it last year and we just didn't have the time to do it. And really wanted to make sure that we dedicated a good amount of time and also make sure that our guest also had the time to jump on this show because he's in a completely different country. So we're really excited to bring you the owner and operator of one of only 2 lodges that exist on a top 5 fishing destination in the world, Jurassic Lake over in Argentina. And I have with us Luciano, who is the owner and operator of Estancia Laguna Verde there at Jurassic Lake. Welcome, Luciano.
Hello, Brian. How are you? Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, great. So glad to have you on the show. You know, I've been lucky enough to be at your wonderful destination there, the lodge, meet the guides, the hosts, be on the water. I mean, it truly is, when you read in the magazines about it being a top 5 fishing destination, it really is. And I think one of the things that of the many things that makes Jurassic Lake so unique, I think one of the things that's really unique is the fact that there are only 2 lodges on the entire lake, and you and your father happen to be the owners of probably, in my opinion, the best lodge there on the lake. But start the story off. Tell us a little bit about how you guys decided to do this, how you found Jurassic Lake, and then decided to put a lodge there, because it is truly in the middle of nowhere.
So, do we have enough time? We have. Well, no, yes. So, well, thank you very much for the compliments and for ranking the place in among the top 5 destinations. Very proud and very nice to hear that. And yeah, my opinion, of course, is very much subjective. I'm not because I love the place. For me, and my father is like our baby. Because it was our first ever fishing lodge that we started. My father and myself, we are actually lawyers, so either both of us, worked as full-time practicing lawyers, but always, in my case, my father fished since he was 18 or so, and so for my little kid, in my case, he taught me to fly fish, and so all my life I've been around fly rods and fishing and hunting stuff. And well, so in one of those kind of like coincidence, we, through a friend of mine, we got to hear about the place. And so a friend of mine, incredibly, that he's from the US, and I picked him up. He was hitchhiking in northern Patagonia. So I picked him up while he was hitchhiking with his girlfriend. And so at that time I was in a relationship that wasn't going so well. And so I told my ex-wife, my ex-girlfriend, I'm going to pick up these hitchhikers because I saw the fly rods sticking out of the backpacks. And so my ex told me, no way, they are dirty, it's dangerous. And so just to piss her off, because they wasn't going so well, I stopped and picked up this couple randomly. And it turns out that they were both fishing guides and photographers. And so, well, one of those relationships that you become a friend right away. And so we, with these friends, Eric and Liv, we, hit it off right away. They fish very well. They told me a lot of things about fishing. They introduced me, for example, to polarized lenses that I didn't know at that time, and the big difference it made for so many things that for me that were totally unheard of. And well, so the relationship continued, and in year 2008, Eric wrote an email to me and told me that he was going to a place called Jurassic Lake, and I said, hey, that place doesn't. I know basically all lakes and rivers that are fishing important in Argentina, and never heard of that. And so when he returned, he says, hey, Lucho, the place actual name is Strobel Lake. It's been nicknamed Jurassic Lake, but the name in reality is Strobel. So with my father in our office, we have usually real estate properties to sell. And so it happened that my father had just shown the owner of Estancia Laguna Verde a ranch in La Pampa, because what happened was that the owner of Estancia Laguna Verde, the ranch in Jurassic Lake, he was trying to buy a ranch where we live in La Pampa that is very famous for cattle ranching. So just out of coincidence, it happened that my father had shown a ranch to the owner of Estancia Laguna Verde. So well,
Wow.
we asked about maybe checking the ranch because he was selling it, and so in a way we were sort of like pretending we were interested in buying, but we actually wanted to go fish there because I heard from my friend of the very big rainbows, and my friend was saying, "Oh, this is the most incredible place I ever seen." Blah blah blah. And so, well, we arranged a trip, and in one day we were there, at Jurassic, at Strobel for the first time. And now I remember the date very well. It was 22nd February 2008. I remember the day because it's my birthday. So, for my birthday, we arrived for the first time at Estancia Laguna Verde and Jurassic Lake. And so, yeah, we immediately loved it. It was very very remote, rugged. We had to go with you've been in Argentina, you've seen the Toyota Hilux. So that's a very so you go in the four wheel drive. In the low gear. So basically walking you will go faster. So it took us like 8 hours to get to the small estancia house. So we had a nice barbecue there. We caught a few fish. We fish in the laguna, the lagoon in front of the lodge now. So caught a few fish and then went to sleep. And the next morning we got up early. And yeah, we left the truck very far from the lake. So we walked like an hour and a half to the lake. And so we fished there and as much as we could. But yeah, the first big rainbow I got, I couldn't believe it. I was completely static and freaking out about the size, but also the fight. It was amazing. So it was like almost like love at first sight.
Yeah.
So on 2 days later we're going out, and with my father we were not even talking about no. With my father we've worked together for many many years, so we didn't even talk about it. Like kind of like silently, we just looked at each other and immediately started talking with the owner of the estancia about buying the place. So we never actually talked between us. We just both went, 100% to try to make something happen there. And well, the owner of the estancia happened that he had received a down payment to buy it for someone else, but the deal didn't happen. So we got there at the right time because he was committed to sell, but at the same time his deal went off. So he, when someone is ready to sell, usually they're willing to be more flexible, and so we got there at the
Yeah.
right time. And so on the way out, we were talking about buying, and he liked us, and incredibly that for he liked two lawyers. That's incredible. uh, yeah, but no, he was a very nice guy. We still see each other. We have a good relationship. We are sort of friends with him, and once in a while we have an asado, a barbecue together, or he comes visit. So in a way, it started. I would say that it started with two hitchhikers and a pain in the ass girlfriend. That's how it started. The thing there.
I love it.
And so, well, from there, yeah, it was a big challenge, to build the lodge. That we built it. You've been there, we built it around an old estancia house for two reasons. One, because at first it was a much smaller lodge than it is now, but also it's a remote area, not easy, not cheap at all. So we used what was there and worked around it. And now that the lodge is much bigger, 15 seasons later, we most of what was there, only a few stone walls that were there, that we like it to keep it, the original stone walls of the estancia there. But most is new now. But in the first couple seasons, we used many of the things that were built there already, that were well built. They lasted for a long time.
So you guys were there in February of 2008, decided that you guys wanted to make this happen. I mean, it absolutely sounds like it was meant to be. From the hitchhiker to the girlfriend to you guys being out there at the exact perfect time when the person who was, in contract to buy it ended up falling through. So when did you guys, so you made the deal happen. When
Mhm.
did you guys open for the first season?
Yeah, so in February we went there, and so maybe by May we had finalized the deal and everything. The notary and all the paperwork, with the land registry, etc., etc. And from there, we immediately started to plan, the lodge, and we were very much a passionate fisherman, but we didn't know anything about running a lodge, building a lodge, or anything like it. But we also have a small construction company, so our partners, the architects, and so we have experience building things like apartment
Yes.
buildings, big houses, and ranches, etc. And so, well, we in a way we had at least that background that was helpful for sure. So in December of 2008, that's when we started operating with the first clients. And so, in a way, my father, that he likes building a lot, concentrated more on all the planning of the construction, the buildings, the what the lodge require, etc., etc. And in my case, I focus more on how we were going to work from the guides, staff, chef, etc. But also the fishing program, and in a way the sales, where to market, contacting like agents like yourself, and other agents in the throughout the world. So it's a slow process, and yeah, it's been really challenging and interesting at the same time, for sure. From a full-time practicing lawyers, to full-time lodge owners and running lodges. And at first it was either my father or myself, one of the two always there. So we would be we would do the transfers, sometimes guide if we were short one guide, or anything that was needed. And so, well, it's been a fantastic and very interesting learning process. And still, it's like I always compare it to fishing. Like in fly fishing, you never stop learning.
Right.
Usually when you think the fish slap you in the face. So when it comes to running a lodge, the same thing. It's always a learning process, always trying to improve. Oh, you can always do things better. You can provide a better service for the clients, or improve the fishing experience. So it's endless, which actually makes it a lot of fun. I think that when you stop trying to learn and improve, probably you are dead.
Yeah. So when you guys first started, how many people, how many guests were you guys bringing on at that time? Four or five?
So it was six, were three
Six.
guest rooms for six, so three double rooms. Okay, and so now it has, this season we are doing two more rooms, so it will have 12 single rooms. So we were working with 12 anglers for several years now, but we now have 12 single rooms. Because in a way that's something that more and more people request. To have. I mean, they can fish with someone else, but we
Yes.
always feel that if someone can have a single room, it improves, like from sleeping better, having your own things, spread around the room, your own bathroom, and so on. So, that's one of the main challenges we had in the last years to improve our lodging, have the possibility to have a single room for each guest. Sometimes you have a couple, sometimes you have a father and son, but most times people, like for example, if I travel with my father, that we travel quite a lot. Yeah, I love to fish with my father, but if we can sleep separated, much better.
Yeah. Keeps
So
everybody getting along for longer as well.
absolutely yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, but now, so it's started with three rooms for six guests maximum, and now since the last years it's 12 guests, but this year is going to be with 12 rooms. Okay.
Great. Great. Well, we'll get into the like fishing and gear, and tell everybody a little bit about this, kind of the seasons and what to expect catch when you get down there. But one of the things that I think is really impressive about you guys, and you just mentioned, like, the thoughtfulness of having a single occupancy rooms for everybody. That is a nice attribute to have to your lodge, instead of trying to maximize and put 24 anglers in there with double occupancy rooms. For not having any back experience kind of in the hospitality world, like you said, you guys were attorneys. You really, really, you have a strong customer service backbone. When I was there, I was extremely impressed with every aspect. From how we were greeted to the guides to the follow up. I mean, it was really, I haven't traveled everywhere in this world, but I've been to a lot of really cool destinations, and I can honestly say you guys are top without a doubt. Where does that come from? I mean, I know it's important to you, but how do you instill that from top to bottom, where every single person in your organization is kind of drinking the same juice and speaking the same language? Because it was really impressive.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And I guess that my great grandfather used to have he was Italian and used to have a hotel. So I don't know if that's in our genes, but I don't know. But in the end, I think that we try to have a lodge that people feel at home. So ours even there is not a really, we don't try to be very posh, or as the English say, very, upscale in terms of almost feeling uncomfortable. We feel a fishing lodge is about feeling at home. You can relax. There's not a real dress code. It's like people, someone will show up with their flip flops and whatever. But it's about being relaxed. You are on your vacation. You are sometimes making friends. Interacting with a bunch of fishermen from sometimes many different countries all over the world. That makes it, in my opinion, really interesting. So yeah, we tried that, and yeah, luckily we've been, very, very lucky to have, staff that kind of like follow that same, mindset that, it's important everybody feels at home, and really, adjust. Sometimes, a client may have a special request, or maybe I don't know, maybe it's a single angler that doesn't get along well with the other fishing. So we always try to adjust and be flexible. So because yeah, when you are there, that's your week. So it's not another week; it's your week. So it's important that it's the best week we can provide. So not just for the fishing, but I think that it's we travel the world. Like myself, I like to travel all over the world to fish, and you do the same. And we travel, for experiences, not just catching a fish. It's a
Absolutely.
lot, a lot more. I have a friend from South African, but he lives in England, and he always says that fly fishing is actually about the people, because in the end, it's about the people you meet, your guide, the manager at the lodge, the people you are fishing with. And sometimes you meet someone for a week and then you become a friend, and it has happened to me many times. You become a great friend for years, and sometimes then I know you go and share a trip with someone that you met just once a week, 2 years ago, but we see that a lot of time. And so that's why, yeah, we try to kind of like pass along that mindset of making someone feel totally at home, and make it very special, because it's their week. Maybe sometimes you have people that are fishing 1 week per year, so that's very important. It's not it's not any other week. It's a very important week.
Well, and it is a special trip for sure, and I love your guys's how you appreciate the hard earned money, time, and energy that it takes in order to come to an adventure like this, and honoring that. I think that some lodges you got to kind of hope that the fishing's good, such as Alaska and some of these other areas. The fishing may or may not be. Where at Jurassic Lake, I mean, consistently over 6.5 days, you're going to catch. You're going to have some great days there, but what people are there for, like you said, in addition to the fishing, is that overall experience. It's the food, it's how they're treated, it's the beds, and everything about what you guys have done. Really is incredible. But let's talk about the fishing, because that is why that's what draws people to Jurassic Lake. And as you
Absolutely.
mentioned, the real name of the lake is Strobel Lake. For those that are
Mhm.
listening, and it got nicknamed Jurassic Lake because of the size of the rainbows. I know a little bit about the story, but why don't you just quickly tell us about how these fish got introduced to Jurassic, and why are they so big? What has caused them to be so prolific?
Okay. Yeah. So in the southern hemisphere, Argentina, Chile, and the same happens with Australia, New Zealand. We didn't have any trout. Okay. So all trout were introduced, as well as salmon. Okay. And so in different parts of Argentina, that introduction of trout happened in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Okay. But as as Argentina colonized south, towards the southern Patagonia. That introduction of trout happened later, and and what happened was that because of the remoteness of the place, it didn't happen at Strobel for many years, and so it actually happened quite recently. It happened in 1999. So the previous owner of our estancia, he thought that the place had all the characteristics to be successful for trout fishing, and so he introduced at first in 1989 at Barrancoso River. So Strobel Lake is a very big lake. It has 65 square kilometers, which is a quite a big lake, but it has only one tributary. So it's a rather small river called Barrancoso River that goes into Strobel and doesn't have an exit. So it's kind of like a closed system, because many years ago, sort of like a drier period started, and so the lake slowly going shallow. I mean smaller,
Yeah,
shrinking.
exactly.
And yes, and so, well, he introduced the rainbow trout, from the McCloud strain. No, that's the strain that was introduced in Argentina is the McCloud from the McCloud River in Northern California. And so he got a hold of some fingerlings, from they were in Argentina, but they were from that strain of fish of rainbow trout. So he introduced them at Barrancoso, and he didn't know if it was successful or not. So the sort of like the legend or the story says that he was walking one day by the river, and he all of a sudden saw some very big fish going up river, and so that's when he knew that it had worked, and it worked quite fast. So he did a second introduction in 1994. Okay, so those were the two times that the system got fish introduced: 1989 and 1994, both rainbow trout. And from there, nature took over. And what happens is that the place has a combination of factors that make it very good for trout and rainbow trout in particular. And for once, the water is very pure, and no pollution there, no boats, and so very remote. Also, the temperature being it's not really high altitude; it's about 1,000 meters above sea level. But being south, the temperatures are rather cold, especially in the winter. But the temperature stays quite cold throughout the year. And between that and being, Patagonia, it's a windy region sometimes,
Yep.
and because of that it creates a lot of oxygen in the water with the waves. And the third thing that makes it very successful for trout is that the water has a little bit of a high pH, a little alkaline, the water.
Hmm.
And so between those three things, temperature and the purity of the water, being, plus the wind that oxygenates the water, it has a really incredible amount of food sources available. But the main three are related to they are amphipods, related to the scuds. So you have the regular scud, like have maybe the size of a finger nail, then you have copepods, which are a little smaller, and then a third one will be daphnias that are microorganisms that they form like clouds. So it's not unusual at Strobel to see the fish, kind of like schooling, or getting many fish together in certain locations, and that's when they are feeding with on Daphnia, because the Daphnia forms like clouds of food, and so it moves up and down, and because of the waves and currents of the lake throughout the lake. And so usually when you see fish schooling in certain locations, it means that clouds of Daphnia are there. So you may see a fish, like whales, they filter feed with their mouth open, so that's why the guides have kind of like become experienced in trying to predict that. So sometimes they will check on the wind. They know that currents happen in some times of the day, especially for example after a windy day. The next day you are going to have currents in the lake. That so sometimes you cast your line and you have the wind going in one direction, but you see the line going into a different one. And so that's why all those things, all those little details, teach the guides where to go and what places to choose eh, throughout the day. So sometimes they will start in certain locations and maybe finish the day in others that probably better for the afternoon. So it's really interesting as a fisherman. It has some. You think, oh, lake fishing. It's like, oh, no, no. Actually, it has a lot and a lot of little details that make a big difference when fishing it.
Yeah, I love that. Very interesting. I knew some of that, but actually, you threw in some stuff there that I wasn't aware of. And just so the listeners know, when we're talking about big fish, especially over here in the United States, we gauge big trout by inches, right? So you're like, oh, it's an 18 inch, or I caught a 22 inch rainbow, and that's big. Here we're talking pounds. We're not talking inches. We're talking pounds. These fish are on average 8 to 12 pounds, and as high as 20 pounds gets you on the wall of fame. So a lot of people are catching double digit rainbows, four, five, six a day. Sometimes days even better than that. So that's you're really fishing for a trophy rainbow. Unlike, I mean, there are other places that have giant rainbows, but nothing like this. Especially the consistency of the size is pretty impressive.
Yes, for example, yeah, as you mentioned, yeah, we use sometimes, our nets, they have they have inches, but uh, we have also scales. So yeah, it's always good, to measure and weigh the fish. And yeah, for example, at Jurassic, usually a 32-inch fish would be a 20-pounder. Okay,
Right.
so but we've seen 30-inch fish that have weighted 20 pounds or more, and sometimes a 34 inches fish could be a 24, 25, depending a little bit, of course, the girth of the fish, and but usually around 32 inches, that's a 20-pounder. That's a pretty much a given.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. I wasn't lucky enough to catch 20 pounder. I think the biggest one was caught maybe by Abe, 18 pounds. I caught one about 17, but yeah, I mean, personal best. I mean, it was a lifetime fish for sure. Can't wait to get back and hopefully catch bigger. But absolutely incredible catching into your first double digit rainbow on a fly rod. Definitely a special deal. I think one of the things when people think about a top five destination, or they hear about the remoteness of Jurassic and Strobel Lake, people have a tendency to maybe write it off, or have a feeling that it's a really expensive experience. And what I've told people is, well, if you ever dreamed of going to Alaska, Alaska is not an inexpensive trip, and most of your Alaska experiences are 5 days. This is 6.5 days of fishing. I mean, it's a 7 day deal. There's some shuttle, there's some traveling involved, but 6.5 days of fishing in an absolutely incredible place. And really, it's not that difficult to get there. And just to talk a little bit about that, you basically land in Buenos Aires in the morning. You take an afternoon flight down to a beautiful little town called El Calafate, where you
Mhm.
stay in a nice little hotel, grab a nice dinner, and then the next morning, you guys pick us up. And tell us a little bit about the shuttle. What is it, about 4 or 5 hours, and very scenic?
Yeah, exactly. It's about, 4.5 hours drive. No, and yeah, you are driving from the town, as you mentioned, of El Calafate, which is a very nice, neat town. That, yeah, usually if you have some time, we suggest to visit. It has a very famous glacier called Perito Moreno Glacier. That if people arrive with enough time we run the weeks Saturday to Saturday. So on the Friday that you arrive to Buenos Aires, you take the flight, you connect the airports, you take the flight to El Calafate, and usually you have time to do that. Maybe that visit that may take you 3 4 hours, but it's worth if you can do it. If you like those things, I think it's special. And then you can go out for a nice dinner. At night. Lamb is very popular. In southern Patagonia. So yeah, that's a suggestion. If you like lamb, that's the place to have it, as well as in our estancia. and and then yeah, so the morning, we pick up the guests at their hotel. Calafate has many different hotels, so you have a large variety of hotels to choose from. But usually we suggest the ones that are more downtown, easy, to go, for a walk, visit the place. And so we pick up the guests, and usually 4.5 hours, you get to the lodge. We wait there the guests. We usually the arrival lunch. It's a homemade pizza by our chef. That I hope hopefully you liked it when you were there. Um, and then usually everybody gets unpacked. The guys are there, to greet the clients, to introduce themselves, but also they start asking questions like, okay, let me see your rods. What flies did you bring? Will you need? We have a quite a large loaner tackle room. We are with plenty of waders, boots, some jackets, but also plenty of it's not unusual that sometimes you send the information to someone, but maybe they didn't have time to read, and so they show up with a 5 weight, and a regular and a 5x tippet, and say no, that probably won't do it. So we have
Problem.
usually you want to have an 8 weight, from a 7 to a 9, but the most popular rod is a 9 foot 8 weight, and most of the time we are using floating lines. So I would say 95% of the time we are going to use a floating line, and we recommend lines that have those loaded front tapers. There are different brands, have similar lines, but in a way you want the front part of the line loaded, a little bit like a shooting line. So
Yep.
it allows for sometimes you are just roll casting if it's windy, uh, but also it allows you if you're casting into the wind or with a side wind, you can really get several more feet out at the same time, with less effort. So I think it helps a lot. So we always have that at hand. So if the guide sees that, maybe you have your rod, but it's not probably the he will take spare just in case. And if he sees that you are not getting in really what you want, you can always use ours, and it's free of charge. The idea is someone to have always the perfect rod and reel and line setup to have the best results possible. Okay.
Well, again, and I think that's just another feature of you guys that makes it special, because I do know a lot of people that travel and always ask me, should I bring a second pair of waders, especially when you go on a trip like this. When you get a leak in your wader on day one or day two, it could really end up being a problem. And so I always tell our clients, when you go on these big trips, bring your own gear that you're most comfortable with. Obviously, your waders and your boots and everything. But in the event that you break a rod, which happens, or you get a leak in your waders or something happens, there's going to be backup there. And so not all
Mhm.
lodges are like that, but obviously you guys do, and I'm sure that you've helped out more than one angler who either A, showed up because he didn't read the gear list, or B, just legitimately realized they had a leak in their waders, or snapped their tip walking to the water. And so probably very appreciated. you
Yeah.
know Go ahead.
No, it was like that. A rod can break anytime, or your reel can jam, or I mean, sometimes you step on your line and you accidentally, the rocks in Strobel are very sharp, and sometimes accidentally you step onto your line and you break the coating, and so then it will not cast as good. And so any of those, it's always good to be prepared and have just in case, a backup, and always have at the lodge the possibility of coming with something that will help guests have a the best time possible.
you know Talking about the kind of client that comes there, I get questions all the time about people thinking that they need to be an expert angler in order to go to Jurassic Lake. And maybe part of that's because it's a top five destination. I think also part of it is, you hear about the wind, that could be down in Argentina. The group that we were down there with, had kind of every flavor of angler, from brand new to really really good. I think, talk to us a little bit about the type of client. Obviously, they travel from all over the world, but you guys also get a lot of newer, kind of beginning anglers that just want to come and experience this incredible place.
Yes, we've seen throughout the years, like all sort of, the different angles, and I think that we can adjust and provide a great experience no matter what. And I think that Strobel and Barrancoso River and the Estancia has, an offer that is very varied, flexible, and large. Which so if you're an expert angler, you can always find, new challenges, new places to explore, to fish. While if you are also a beginner, our guys, are very experienced into helping someone, work on their cast, you know, teaching them different tricks that will help them not just with fishing with us, but as a fisherman all over the world. And so yeah, the idea is that yeah, to get them the best results possible. At the same time, fish in a rewarding way. So like for example, I like a lot of Strobel that you can sight fish a lot, and so sometimes it's about also to maybe trying to spot the fish and casting the fly to a specific fish. So it's also about providing a great fishing experience, as they say, not just catching but fishing. It's a but I think it has the possibility to offer a beginner a great experience. And there are many places that someone, for example, either because of fishing skills or because of maybe some issues with their mobility or age. We've had clients fish with a wheelchair. We've had
Yeah.
clients come in and the when we had a client that fished with us for 12 consecutive years until he was 94. Okay, and so he would, yeah, as the year progressed, he lost some of his mobility. He was very agile. This great friend, and that unfortunately he passed away a few years ago, Carol. And but he always enjoy going fishing the river in the mornings, then having a break. He would call on his sat phone and then fish in the afternoon in the lake. But so he fished with us till 94. So I think that there's opportunity of great fishing and experience, no matter your fishing skills, but also your age or your fitness. I think that has for every taste has interesting things.
Yeah, no question. Another thing that I get asked about all the time, because there are two lodges on the lake, and now everybody says, what's the difference? And obviously, they're both great places. Nothing against Jurassic Lake Lodge, but there is a huge difference. And I tell people, that I can't necessarily speak for the customer service or any of those other things at Jurassic Lake Lodge, because I'm sure that they do a great job as well. But one of the big difference, aside from how you guys treat everybody and the extra gear and everything, is the amount of fishing, amount of kilometers that you guys have at Strobel Lake versus Jurassic Lake. It's kind of like, I tell people, it's like comparing 100 yards of fishing to 100 miles of fishing. Tell us a little bit about how much access you guys have on Strobel versus the not necessarily the competition, but the limited amount on the other side of the river.
Perfect. Yeah. So, yeah, for us, since we started, our one of the main challenges was, because as fishermen we like to have options. We have like to have variety, and so that was one of our main challenges, especially the first seasons, with my father. And so, we've spent quite a lot of time and effort and money, to make that happen. And so, yeah, we feel that in a way, to differentiate ourselves, from our competition, but also to offer someone coming to fish with us a great experience. And we feel that even if you can have a successful day on one location, it's always nice to have options. And so, for
Right.
example, yeah, we can fish 10 different small lakes in our estancia, a lot of miles of Barrancoso River in different sections. And at the same time, we not only our estancia, but also we have leased to our neighbors, to the east and north. So basically, we fish three of the four properties that surround Strobel Lake. And through the years, we have built more and more roads to access many different locations. And it's a rugged location, so it's not easy. And not all the places are available to build the road there. But we have learned and work with that enough to have plenty of options and variety. And I think that's one of the main differences. Like we have, like you described, the other location, our competitor basically fishes just one location, which is where the Barrancoso River goes into the lake. And basically they fish around 1,000 yards to both sides. That's basically it. And so they do like they rotate anglers, 12 anglers, 12, 14 anglers, rotating in that small area. In our case, we feel that if you travel to Patagonia you also come to experience, remoteness, solitude, just, you, your friend, your guide, and really
Right.
feeling it, in your bones. You are in Patagonia, no one else around. And yeah, of course you meet for lunch, or you meet for dinner, appetizers, but most times you're fishing just yourself and, Patagonia.
So tell us just a little bit about, you mentioned it, your lodge is actually located on a little laguna where people, you step out the front door like 100 yards away and you're fishing for 5, 8, 10 pound browns and rainbows. And there's multiple. So it's not just Strobel Lake that you guys are fishing, but you have other access that's right there, accessing other little lagoons and also the Barracosta River from the lodge. So a lot of diversity.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. So the lake in front of the lodge, fishes very well. For, as you described, for rainbow, brown, and brook trout. But also there are many others of these small lakes that small for, if you compare to Strobel, but actually, they
Right.
are quite big anyway. And yeah, so some people really, enjoy fishing those. And of course, Barrancoso and Strowel, Jurassic are the main dishes. But many times, just before going to one of the two main ones, you go by, or in your return, to the lodge, you step, and maybe fish for an hour in the other ones, which are
Yeah.
great. Offer great sport, great action, different. So I think it adds to the experience, and also helps, like for example, someone maybe, doesn't have, at first, especially when setting the hook, and, learning, to play a fish. Sometimes those are great also to have someone, get better into that part of fly fishing. And so I think that really helpful and nice to have that option as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And what I liked about it too was, we were there for 6.5 days, and absolutely, Strobel is what you want to be fishing the majority of the time. But I also enjoyed the diversity, and the other fish that you can catch, like the brook trout and the brown trout, that you guys have in the other lakes. Not at Strobel, but in some of these others. And I would say probably the most memorable night that we had was when we actually left the main lodge, and I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 hour drive, a real rugged drive out to the outpost, where we stayed at a really remote little cabin there on Strobel Lake, and had a barbecue there. And that was another special part of what you guys are offering is heading out to the outpost for the night, and an even more rugged section of such an amazing fishery. So I think you guys offer a ton.
Well, thank you. Yes, we, when we list the neighbor estancias to us, yeah, we started building roads over there. So since your last visit, we have done a lot more of those, and the outpost, is now like a small second sister lodge, to the one. So some people come, like for example, a week to Estancia Laguna Verde, and we name the other one Lago Strobel Lodge. So people maybe doing a week at Estancia Laguna Verde, and they do 3 nights on the other one. Or sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah, as you did in your visit, you can do a one night there, and return. But yeah, it's different location, more, little bit more rugged, but at the same time very special in my opinion.
Well, we have a lot of clients that have gone down there thinking that they were just going to go experience it once, and have turned into repeat clients, year after year. And that's one of the things that we hear all the time from them is, you know, um, what's so enticing is the diversity. The ability to go out to the outpost for a couple nights, or fish some of these others, or like we did when we went out and took a look for arrowheads. It took a half a day, and I thought that was an absolute blast. And to just listen to a little bit of the history of the hunters, the shelters that they would set up and wait for the animals to come to the different bodies of water. And that was a really cool deal as well, to be able to hunt around those hunting areas and learn a little bit about the history of the place. So really, really unique area, absolutely gorgeous. Really can't say enough about it. But I think the location speaks for itself, because it is incredible. The lodge, the fishing is just one of those things where it literally is incredible. And so for those of you that you know have ever been tempted to come try this out, it really is that good. And But I honestly think what makes it special is you guys and the services that you provide and just how much you care. We have a group coming back in January, and half that group, I had sent last year, or the entire group, half of it's now coming back in January, and majority of the people have said, we knew the fishing was going to be great, but most of them are coming back just because of the entire experience. I think you mentioned that earlier, how important that is to anglers. You guys are crushing that. I just got to say that people ask me all the time, what is your favorite experience? And no offense to the other ones out there, because I do. Got fishing only carries amazing experiences for sure. But of all the ones I've been on, your guys is definitely the top. From the travel down there, I think people get intimidated by it. I think it's amazing. Landing in Buenos Aires and shuttling and having a lunch there before you take off. The night in El Calafate, the history of that town. Like you said, a lot of our clients will spend an extra night, either on the front end or back end, and visit the glaciers or fish some of those little streams you hear about for the giant browns. So there's just so much to do once you get down there. It's so much easier than people think, and it's really not nearly as expensive as people think as well, especially if you do travel to places like Alaska. So I really, appreciate you coming on, Luciano. I wanted people to really get an idea of, the guy who's behind all this and making all of this happen. And one of the other reasons I want the listeners to know that in addition to all the other cool stuff that you've heard about these guys, they also now have an additional lodge that it's on a river called the River Cruiser, and it's on the Parnell River, and they chase golden dorado. We're going to be doing a podcast on that as well, but that's an absolutely exceptional trip. And then they also have a hunting ranch, 12,000 acres, with some amazing stag hunts. And although we do primarily fishing, a lot of our anglers who are adventurers also like that crossover and like chasing unique animals. And the ranch that you guys have is exceptional, no question about it. And the deal that you have in comparison to what we pay over in the United States for elk and deer, it's an incredible value. And literally, even when you're adding in the ticket over to Argentina and some of those extras that come, what you guys are offering over there, the packages are an incredible value as comparison just to a Rocky Mountain elk hunt, here in the United States. So I think when people see that, that's why we've had so much success in the bookings that we have had, because they're like, you get this for this price. So we'll also be doing a podcast on that ranch as well. And the feedback that we've had from the guests from all of the places that we've sent literally have been 5 stars. So we really appreciate you, Luciano. Really appreciate what you and your dad have created. I think that, us anglers out there that work hard for our money, that want to go, experience these amazing destinations. And when we get there, there's always sometimes, can be that disappointment because expectations aren't necessarily matching up with the marketing materials or the things that you heard on the phone. And with you guys, you guys definitely exceed expectations time and time again. So thank you guys for what you provide. We really appreciate the relationship that we've had with you. And thanks for taking the time to be on our podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. It's been a pleasure, and hope to see you soon. And thank you for the kind words and the opportunity to talk about our place that we love very much. Like I said before, Estancia Laguna Verde with my father was like our first baby in terms of of fishing
Yeah.
or hunting. And so even we do other things. That's our first and most care one. And but yeah, we like to extend that to all the things we do. And so yeah, again, it's a pleasure to work with you together, and appreciate the friendship with you, and hope to see you in the near future.
I'll be there January 6th.
That's good. Looking forward to
Yeah.
that.
Looking forward to it as well. Luciano, thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye
Everybody
bye.
who's listening, jump on our website, gotfishing.com. Check on the Jurassic Lake. Click on the Jurassic Lake page and check it out. It's a really, really cool trip. We've got some really detailed information on gear, the experience, travel, pricing, the whole 9 yards. And as always, please subscribe and share this podcast with someone you think might enjoy it. Really appreciate you guys a lot, and thanks for tuning in. See ya.